Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 60 of Talk4, the Quickfire podcast, where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien, that's me, and let me introduce our special guest for today, Martin Furey, who's going to be answering a few questions today. Martin, please say hi to the people listening, introduce yourself, and just give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do before I shoot some questions.
Hi there, my name is Martin Furey. I play guitar, banjo, and write songs and perform music.
Absolutely, amazing person to have on the podcast today. And Martin doesn't know this yet, but actually, my favorite band is the High Kings, and I think you spent 10 years with them, and most of my favorite songs have you performing them with the amazing skills with the flute. Absolutely incredible, a true legend of Irish music, and I can't wait to ask a few questions for you today, Martin. So, if you're ready to go, shall I ask our first question?
Absolutely, yeah, I'm ready.
Right, let's do it then. So, for my first question, Martin, how did you originally get into music, and what was your first instrument? I assume your father was obviously a huge influence on that, but what's the story behind it for you?
The musical instruments were just always around the house growing up because, we're a musical family and friends were always musical. And so we were always just invited to play the instruments if we ever wanted to.
Mm,
And, when you're bored, you play if the guitar is there, you'll play the guitar, or if the whistle is there, you'll play the whistle. And singing was encouraged, harmonies were taught, how to harmonize and all these
mm.
lovely things, just in the household. So we were very fortunate like that, if you're interested in music, to have that start. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you were certainly in the right family for the job. And so what actually was the first instrument that you picked up, if you remember? And yeah, tell us a little bit about like, do you remember that first time that you played something, or was it literally that young that you almost don't remember now?
hmm. um the banjo would be probably the
Okay.
first kind of like, yeah, probably playing the banjo. But actually playing the instrument,
Mm,
would have been probably the first one I learned properly.
right.
And then from there, whistles and pipes and um, guitar from there, and vocals all along.
Mm,
Always interested in writing. Um,
yeah.
that's really.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like the whistles and the flutes and stuff, for me, that's almost like the most kind of iconic sound of the music that kind of leads towards the feel of an Irish tune or something. And I just absolutely love it. And the way you play it is just absolutely fantastic. It really adds to the songs. It's just beautiful. So obviously that's kind of how you started the music career then. But for my second question, how did that career obviously take off to going into the kind of public gigs and stuff, and then obviously forward to the High King? So how did that all transpire for you and go from kind of like a hobby to starting to play and perform worldwide?
It began with songwriting magazines, and thank you very much. That was very kind.
No
Um,
problem. It's all true.
compliment to the Hikings and all the arrangements we worked so hard on. So, but yeah, it started kind of with songwriting magazine, which you could join and try and send people who had record deals songs. Used to be able to sign up to that, and then went through to the Musicians Union gigs, which like kind of that new groups of older musicians were trying to start tours for people, and trying to make work really for bands, and just got into it through all of those programs, local kind of programs, which cities and towns, the arts
Mm,
grants obviously enabled,
yeah,
and practice,
I can
of course.
tell. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, so how many instruments do you actually play then in total? I mean, when you say practice, I mean, obviously that you can practice for many years just on one instrument, but obviously you play multiple. So how many do you actually play in total?
It's not. I mean, I play backup to myself. On like I'm not. There are a few instruments. Whatever, anything usually, any stringed instrument or wind instrument
Mm,
usually is okay because they're so, but mainly just guitar and banjo really, and whistles and pipes. So
yes.
um, so that's four.
Yeah, there you go. And
Well, bouzouki as well, but it's just
yeah.
cranking out a song. It's not really, like playing the instruments. There are great, masters of folk and traditional music, and song balladry is part of that certainly, but it's not necessarily instrumental virtuosity, but it adds to something that everyone can join in with, like that
Mm,
kind of, when you're saying how many instruments you play, it's not, there once you get the idea of one instrument, the other ones become accessible. That doesn't
yeah.
make you great on them, so to speak. But yeah.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense for sure. But I mean, the ones that you are obviously a master of, they've been heard all around the world, even in the White House for President Obama, I believe. And I mean, yeah, this leads really nicely to my third question, actually. Then as well, it's actually about the audiences too. So with some of the other people who were in the High Kings, I kind of asked them a little bit about kind of beginner tips and stuff. But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the sort of experience you have and the sort of, I mean, obviously, like the crowd control, some people might say, but so what are some of your top tips from your career and travels for leaving audiences with an unforgettable experience? Obviously, music is music, and there's a lot of it going around. But how do you take that and make it into something that's more than just music or more than just a concert? And should you always play what the audience wants, or should you play what you want to play and stick to what's true in your background, do you think?
um Live, the best advice I ever received was choose someone at the back of the room who, I guess, isn't enjoying what you're doing,
Mm,
or not necessarily, but choose someone at the back of the room and play to them from the beginning to the end of the gig. So play the gig to one person and you choose that person
mm,
is was the best advice I got to begin with, that way.
mm.
What was there was a second part to the question there.
Yeah, so should you? I mean, for musicians who are kind of, well, it's quite easy to get carried away with trying to just play what the audience wants. But obviously, all these
Oh yeah.
bands, they all have like a true sort of backstory to them. They have like a background, and that's their identity in a sense. So, do you think that that bands should always play kind of what the audience wants, or should you play what you want to play as well and stick to what's true to your background? What do you feel is the key there, or is it a mix?
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I remember you saying that now.
Mm.
So you have to, I mean, you've got to pay the bills and you have to not lose faith, or whatever you want to call, whatever it is that kind of makes musicians want to be musicians. That the reality is that a lot of gigs that pay can be very, they can be a bit glum because people would be more interested in drinking than they would be in music, and that's great. We like that too as musicians. There's nothing wrong with that, or whatever it is. They might be interested in having a conversation. You'll
Mm.
be playing music in the bar. This is a reality of most gigs, and they want to hear what they know usually.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends. And then I mean, when we started, we just played our own material, no matter who was there, and we made sure the band, we knew what we were doing and the songs were rehearsed. So even though people would regularly complain about the fact they didn't know any of the songs, they were happy that the quality of the songs were good. So I,
Yeah.
if you're going to do original stuff, make sure it's really well rehearsed. And it just depends where you are, really. You have to be happy in what you're doing. Some people are happy learning collections of songs. They have hundreds of songs, and some people are only happy, playing 40 minutes of their own poetry or whatever. So
Mm.
whatever helps you to enjoy what you're doing, people will pay into, because, so to speak, not to be too, you know. But I mean, what I'm saying is, if you're enjoying it, sometimes, if it's obviously, say all the practice is done and everything else like that, and you're the same standard as, all the bands are very good. It's important to continue to enjoy what you're doing, because that's really part of the entertainment, is providing an enjoyment that, you know, people's day to day, if you're lucky enough to be a performer or a musician, you know, and you've ever done a real job, so to speak, even though were music were the music industry easy, everyone would be doing it. A t-shirt reads or read. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, just depends. You have to, people will, pay in to see, a comedy show or music or theater, so whatever helps you to convey a spirit of enjoyment, or joyfulness, or strength, or character, whatever it is, that keeps yourself going, the audience picks up on. So it's important that that's there, whatever you choose. So
Oh yeah, God, that's so true. I really feel that, and I mean, I've only kind of been a fan of the High Kings really for like the last couple of years. Not because I wasn't a fan, because I literally just only found them a couple of years ago, and I went to one of the concerts in London. And even just looking back at the old videos of you and the guys, it's not just music. There's so much enjoyment and so much fun that's just an aspect of it, and you can see it in your faces. Like you just love what you're doing, and it's beautiful to see. And as well, the other thing is that if you're a new singer or a band or a musician or something, the initial fans that you're picking up are going to be from people who just genuinely like you for you and the music you're producing in the band or whatever. So if you stick true to that, you're going to have these fans who come to you for you, not just because you're playing to the trend. But I suppose there is obviously an element of that too, which helps to kind of get the exposure and get the band out there. But yeah, I suppose, like you said, really, it's the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, but it's all about kind of the individuality and just what makes you buzz really on stage. But I mean, talking about the audiences and stuff, Martin. So obviously, you've been obviously like all around the world. You've done these amazing gigs in such incredible places. I've got to ask just quickly. It's not on the script. It's not one of the questions. Just out of curiosity for me, have you had like a favorite audience or a favorite venue, or just was there like an audience that literally blew your socks off? And was there like a venue that you just thought was just incredible?
there were a lot. All the gigs were excellent because of the company I was keeping. They were absolutely brilliant showmen and musicians, and they work so hard in their career. So the Islington was incredible. Was really, really, the first night in Islington. The church there was splendid.
Wow.
Indeed, that was really, really, really good fun, and that's one that really stands out. But there were a lot. Um, I'm just trying to think, because where the heck was that? Milwaukee Irish Festival. Milwaukee Irish Festival, just before I left the band, was incredible, because it was the first time we got a sense of like, I can't describe it, an indescribable feeling, an amazing gig. We had a lot of good gigs. It's a difficult answer, that
Sure.
way, because there were a lot of good, but the church in Islington was, I don't know, just it was just great to go to London and to play to so many people, in such an amazing hall. Didn't even, I'd never been really, it was incredible. So
Mm.
that was a really good night. If I don't know if that's one of the gigs you were at, but that was great. And the Albert Hall as well was great. We played with the Young
Yes.
Voices choir there.
I saw the videos of that recently. Oh wow, that was amazing. And oh yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been to the Islington one, but if they ever do one in future, I'd be very glad to see it. But I'll certainly be having a look on YouTube tonight for any of the past clips from there. But yeah, like you said, I mean, when you have these kind of experiences that are so full of fun and joy, and seeing these people just loving the work that you're producing, the sound that you're making and stuff, I can imagine it gets difficult to kind of choose a favorite when you've had so many fantastic and brilliant experiences. But I mean, we're on the subject of kind of like new bands and stuff now, new singers coming through and staying authentic and stuff. So as part of that, for my fourth question, Martin, I wanted to ask a little bit about the kind of going into the future of Irish music. So, going into the future of it, what do you think is most important for new emerging Irish bands to consider for keeping the tradition and heritage of the music alive, but also bringing it to audiences with a more modern appeal? Also, how do you find the balance in that and keep true to your culture, but also keep it appealing to the newer generations?
Um, there, I
It's a
have
tough
no
one, isn't
idea.
it?
Yeah, I don't know. Just do what you all just do what you do. A producer called Gary Lowe gave me that piece of advice. Just do what you do.
Mm.
Um, is really the only thing, and then the rest is really in the Rock and Roll Swindle by the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, which was put together. I mean that's a tongue in cheek version of how to be a professional musician. Is it's an old kind of video. So if you kind of follow those instructions, on there and to thine own self be true, musically, if you're good at the mashed potato, do the mashed potato kind of thing. And you can, you can do that, as long as you're doing one thing well, you're useful to the music industry.
That's great.
You know.
Perfect. I think that's all we need to hear, Martin. I love it. I love it. If you do the mashed potato well, do the mashed potato. You know what? That's advice for life. I'm gonna take that on
Quote
board.
unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, you should copyright that quickly because that's going on a t-shirt
It's
soon.
on the movie Get On Up, the James Brown story, actually. Sorry. So the
Okay.
James Brown story, it's a line from that. So
Ah, fantastic. Well, Martin, obviously that's the four questions done for today, but I just wanted to ask one more thing as well, just something small. So let's say we've got a listener on today who is loves your music, loves the kind of the flutes and the Irish flute and stuff, and they kind of want to get started in it, but they don't know the kind of the differences between the flutes and where to start. Do you have any kind of a recommendation for like a good beginner flute or just something to start with, like a specific sort of model to look for or something, or a brand, or just something if someone wants to kind of take it up, where would you sort of begin with that in a sense?
Clark's whistle, a Clark's whistle, just buy a Clark's whistle or a generation whistle
Mhm.
and
Okay.
start there. Just scales. There are seven notes or 13 with intervals. There are seven notes you have to learn, and you can just make it all up as you go along, or there are
Mm.
exercises you can practice. And that's the simple answer to that. And also the Queen, I have to re-answer another question. The Queen's Hall in Belfast was possibly the best. Oh, it was incredible atmosphere, and Board Gosh in Dublin as well. It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just do that, that's the best thing.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, I'm heading to Dublin on Saturday. I'm seeing the gig in Vicar Street on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that greatly. And so
Okay.
it's a very high Kingsley week for me. This one, I've got Martin on today, and I've got the boys on Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to this week. But Martin, that has been our four questions for today. Well, four and a bit. I'm going to be cheeky there. But before we wrap this up, it is time for what I like to call the shameless plug. Martin, feel free to take a minute and just promote anything that you're working on, you want people to take a look at, or just something that you believe in. I know you have a Facebook page, so please do feel free to direct people to there. And if you're running any gigs or anything anytime soon, please let us know where we can find your stuff.
Okay. Facebook. I'm trying to get to 5,000 friends so I can psych people when they try and friend me. Like I have way too many friends already. So I'm not there yet. I'm still working on the psych for Facebook. So there is some music on there. There's music on Reverb Nation and SoundCloud. And if I'm going to promote anything, I'm going to promote something which is a finished show and ready to go. So I would wish the lads great luck. The High Kings and Paul O'Brien, the newest member, there. Say hi to George Murphy, who's back home with his own band. and just wish them the best of luck and loads of love. I'm always nice about them when I'm talking to the walls here.
Oh,
Okay, loads of love always.
that's amazing, Martin. Thank you for that.
Love the
And
house.
oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful way to end it off. And yeah, Martin, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to have you on, an absolute honor, and I'm just glad I could get to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks for the kind words. Have a great evening.
I certainly will. And you
Thank
guys
you.
too. I'm not sure if you're listening in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, but I hope you really enjoyed this episode. And as I said at the start, this has been episode 60. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen in for the future ones, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.